Welcome to the Real Life and Fishing Podcast. I'm the host, Jimmy Easterling. And guys, on this podcast, man, this is another, I enjoy them all, okay? Hopefully you guys enjoy them as well. I've had a lot of feedback from messages sent to me and calls. This one right here was Southern Arkansas angler BJ Knowles. Okay, guys, if you're from the South, you know of BJ, and you know of him from tournaments, just him probably more even as a person. BJ's kind of those guys. Me and BJ, we talk about it. I think in this podcast we talked about it even. I've had so much happen, I forgot everything in the podcast. But guys, BJ, me and BJ are kind of like, BJ, through me, Fish the Moment, reached out to me. You know, he loves watching YouTube when he can with work. He always watched Johnny Fish the Moment. Eventually, I got on there. He reached out to me, and we kind of just had a little connection. And one thing when he reached out, I was like, dude, we're kind of like the same. You're high energy, you go. I'm the same way. So this one, man, I'm excited about. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and talk about some other stuff real quick. Here in a little bit, I'm about to share about, and this is my part of the guys of the podcast. If you're a first timer, I kind of talk about tournaments. I talk about just kind of stuff's happening in the fishing world. One thing I'm about to talk about is something new with my future. I'm taking I'm stopping some business endeavors and I'm starting a whole new journey adventure. I'm going to share with you guys that in a minute as well. If this is your first time, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead, help me out there and help this grow. Share the podcast, share the videos on YouTube. Guys, if you have any questions for me or BJ, leave a comment down below. I always say that at the end, but leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. I have guys watching this on all platforms though. So I appreciate it if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio. Thank you. And guys, let's first talk about the tournaments before I get into my future endeavors. But the tournaments right now in Arkansas, we had Trader Bill's, Team Trail Washita, and that was after the Buzzes podcast. I kind of talked about it during Buzzes. My man Trent and his dad won. Trent, man, big shout out to Trent. I've talked about him a lot on here, kind of in tournaments because he has done well this year. Washita and Trent has been pretty tight. And his dad, Trent, I'm going to try to get Trent on the podcast. Trent's already said no, he don't want to do this stuff, but we're just going to one day bust up at Futrall, make it happen, okay? So leave me a comment if you want Trent on there. Let's go ahead and try to get Trent. I got a couple other more lined up, guys. I got 3 guys right now lined up. I've talked about Jeremiah Kendi. I got to get it fixed, scheduled with him. Another, Brian Bean won it to Gray. I'm trying. I need to get Brian on this thing. Brian had the big bass this year. If you know Hot Springs, Arkansas, you know of Dennis and Brian. I think Brian would be a cool one to have on here as well. And then what else? I forgot the guy's name that won the BFL, the Army veteran. I felt bad. I just forgot. He had caught an 8-pounder, won the BFL that day. They ate that day. Then the next day at the Mr. Bass at DeGray did not eat. More of a tough event for sure. So congrats to those 2 guys there. Right now the Big Bass Classic, I don't know what it's called, the Arkansas Bass Team Trails at Washita. Saturday was tough. A 4.69 was leading it. Today at the 11 o'clock hour, a 6.04 was weighed in. Curious if that's going to hold up. Okay, so that's kind of what's happening there in the tournament trails as well. And guys, on this podcast, me and BJ we get into a lot. We're down there at Lake Earling, and this is in his a trip that they make every year, and he goes into that on this trip. It goes from his dad, now through them. His dad's passed away. He shared that story. This is the stuff I want on this podcast. I want these anglers to get on here, guys. Share, stories like this, and just share the adventures with fishing, because we see them as tournament guys and winning tournaments, this, that, but I just want them to be able to get a chance to share. Now, with me real quick, let me share on this, guys. I'm starting a new adventure with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Fellowship Christian Athletes is very popular among the state. It's popular amongst the nation. It's now international as well. One thing they reached out to me on a couple months ago, guys, is being involved in starting the outdoors piece here in Arkansas. And so they reached out to me like in October. It's a long story. Been going, been kind of praying about it, guys. And we're going to do it. What this is going to give me a chance to do is I'm going into the schools. I'm going to junior highs and high schools, finding your kids that fish and hunt, and giving them a chance. I'm going to minister to these kids. I'm going to be there for them to have someone to talk to. When I was a coach, guys, teacher, that was one of my biggest things. I got kids trust, and they could share, they could talk, and then I'm there to help them, mentor them. I still got relationships with these kids that I coached, I've taught, and so God's always kind of gave me this gift of having good relationship with kids, communicating with them, being there for them. And when I jumped in this journey of this editing world, all this stuff I do, I kind of lost that connection and lost that, like, I had this gift. How am I going to use it? Well, through the Fellowship Christian Athletes, I'm going to have this opportunity again. So we're going to start off with like 30 schools, and then I'm going to go eventually grow it throughout the state. So I'm going to go in these schools, find these kids that fish and hunt, minister to them, start Bible groups with them, take them fishing. That's another big thing, guys. I'm about to take these kids fishing as well. So it's new. And that's just a little bit of what I've shared with you guys. FCA does so much. Now with this, guys, and I'm going to give more information as I get going, but this job, it's a job now. I'm dropping like other things I do that I make money, and this is it. But with this, guys, I raise my salary. It's a ministry position. I raise my salary. My team, who helps, like I said, contributes to my salary, can be anybody. It can be you listening right now. It can be your wife, you, a business. It could be monthly donations or a one-time donation. But guys, I'm going to be looking. I'm actually starting to look right now. I've been having meetings. I've already had people, donate. If you want to hear more information on this, check out my Facebook page, my personal one, or my Jimmy Easterling Fishing. Send me a message. I'd like to talk to you more about it as well. I'm starting to look for people, and I've already had, other reach out that have heard about it. And so, guys, I'm just going to share that with you guys. Like I said, I'm dropping business avenues for this, man. It's kind of crazy that I'm about to be in a ministry position, and I'm still going to make YouTube content. I might guide here and there. I'm still going to guide, but when this gets growing, the guide might be done. It might just be making YouTube content. The podcast is still going to go. I love the podcast. And then as well, we're going to go all in on this. Like I said, it's an opportunity that I'm kind of like, if I don't do this, what's going to happen? Kind of deal, man. And I'm excited about it. I mean, there's not many ministries that reach out to these kids. And guys, these kids today, it is harder than ever, okay? Between TikTok, between all the social media platforms, kids, guys, it is hard to be a kid today. Also, you don't have as many parents in the home as you used to at one time. What's up, James and Eli? I just had the whole family come in here. Say hello, James. James is just now staring at it, okay? Guys, now, hey, let me go ahead and say thanks to some of my sponsors. Futural Marine, third-generation family business, been a big supporter of me before I got into the fishing industry. They still are today. One thing about Futural I appreciate is the family atmosphere they have. Guys, they can serve you in any of your boating needs, okay? Any of your boating needs. From the bass fishing to the wake boat to the pontoon, 3 stores across this state. I guys know them guys down there at Nashville really, really well. The Hot Springs store, if you are a Lake Hamilton, Hot Springs, you know about the store on Lake Hamilton on the island. Man, they like to have a good time. They are here to serve you, and once again, in any of your boating needs. I know one thing for me, guys, that I've pushed a lot of people there with forward-facing sonar, that lithium battery, okay? That small little lithium. Instead of buying that big one, and you can buy the big one and buy the expensive one. I'm not telling you not to, but I didn't want to do that yet, okay? I didn't want to go drop the money, so I bought the small lithium that just powers my live scope. It's the Monster Marine. It's a 50 or 60 amp 12 volt. It just serves for my forward-facing sonar, okay? You can get yours today, and they will install it, do everything right. The guy that installs these things is Trent Owens, and he's a fisherman. You want a fisherman to install it. Also, thanks, guys, to Generation 3 Tire and Auto, Brady Butler down there on Military Road. Brady, third generation. Here we go. I like having family businesses, right? Brady, guys, is a third-generation family business as well. Or mechanic, my bad. Mechanic. He's a third-generation family mechanic. Brady and his dad and grandpa all work at the store, okay? I want to trust someone that knows cars, and Brady's one of the guys I trust. And guys, if there's something that's real severe in your car, Brady will tell you, like he's even told me about some things. He's like, hey, I might not have time to do this on your truck. I can do the oil change, I can do this and this, but if I have the time right, I'm going to do it. But if it's something major, and he can't get to it, he will tell you someone that he does trust, okay? Brady right now, like I said, it's him and his dad working in there. Man, they're busy. If you want to deal on tires, I'm telling you, they're going to beat anybody down that Military Road on your cost of tires, and he's going to tell you the pros and cons for each brand, okay? Brady's a guy I trust, and so I'm just going to let y'all know that as well. Wow, guys, this is almost 10-minute intro. Longest intro yet. Hope you're still listening. James, what you got? James got the Sakamata shad with the tail cut off that he bit. Want to say bye-bye, James? No bye-bye? All right, let's get into the podcast. Guys, here we go. I'm right here with BJ Knowles. And, hey, I just want to say thank you for the day, for getting me to, you invited me down here to what we're about to talk about. I don't even know what you call this weekend. But I just want to say thank you for having me down here today.
Yeah, man, thank you for coming, dude. We had a good time, Brandon. We really had a blast out there on the water, man. I think we knocked it out of the park, man.
Yeah.
What was it, over 20?
We had over 20 pounds.
We had over 20 pounds,
over
day
20
the best
pounds.
5.
Yeah.
Probably caught, 60 fish throughout the day?
We caught a lot of fish.
Caught a lot of fish, so, well, hey, that's a good day. Anytime you do that, you're having fun.
It is. Guys, just real quick, we're at Lake Earling right now, and I want to have BJ talk more about it. So we're at Lake Earling, and it's kind of, I don't know what y'all call it. I don't know if it's just a, y'all have a name for what y'all do this weekend of? What is this? Tell us more about it.
We pretty much call it the Lake Earling trip. Back in the early, mid-'70s, my dad was a Safeway store manager, and he was in El Dorado at first. He heard about Lake Earling. He started coming over here, and he ended up, I think it was the 3rd week of March, last weekend in April. And traditionally, it got going from there, and he had a lot of his buddies coming. Of course, I was just a kid, and then later on, as his buddies get older, and some of them are not able to fish anymore, we revamped the trip into the younger group that you see that we have now.
Yeah.
And so now we got like 30 of us that come over here, and we call it the Lake Earling trip. We try to use the last weekend in April. We're Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We do big bass for the weekend. We do a best 5 on Saturday. We have a bago tournament on Saturday night, along with a big steak cooking.
Yep.
And so it's just a bunch of good guys, and they're various from Sherwood to Crossett to Hamburg to. It's a vast group of guys,
yeah,
and they're all good fishermen, and so therefore, it's a heck of a weekend, man. A lot of fish caught, a lot of fun.
Yeah, you told me about it. We were fishing a while back, and you told me about it. And you're like, "Hey, come on down here and check this out." And with my life, 2 kids, and my stuff being busy, I was like, "I'm going to find one day." Now I'm going to say next year. When we get towards the end of the year, I'm going to call, and I want to be down here on Saturday.
Yes.
I want to be down here on the tournament.
Yeah.
And I've got to meet a couple of your friends. It's been cool, man. It's like you said, a variety of people from what? You said, there's going to be some 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, all to 82.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, Bill Lawrence he's 80, and he was the original owner of Delta Pest, and we became friends over 16 years ago. And how he comes, he'll be here first thing in the morning, and me and him will fish together tomorrow.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So Lake Earling. So like your dad's been fishing here. You said what, 70s?
In the 70s.
So did you come on these trips too when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, yes. Sure
so
did.
You've been fishing this for a long time.
Oh yeah. Out of the back of the boat mainly, out of the back of his boat, and then later on as I got older and had my own boat, I would come and fish with his buddies and stuff like that. And eventually we revamped it into this. And, my dad in later years kind of got in poor health. And as he did, one of the last things he said to us over here, he said, "Y'all keep this trip going."
Yeah.
And we have. And there's a good group of us that make sure that it happens. And, it's a lot to get together to do this, with everybody's schedules and busy and everything. But we make it happen, and it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you even said schedules and busy. And I'm going to bring it up, man, because you and your wife have been a big part of it. You're one of your good friends that comes on this trip. Mm-hmm. And he just had a brain bleed. He had surgery yesterday.
He had just had surgery yesterday.
He was upset he couldn't come. I'll let you talk about it. He's mad he couldn't come. And I'm over here like, the dude's lucky to...
He actually started the first ever UAM Bass Club, a collegiate deal. And he was
his name again?
Philip Roberts.
Philip Roberts,
he was around Hamburg, Arkansas, and now he's my neighbor.
Yeah.
And Keith Pace, another friend of ours from Monticello, sold him some land, and now we're down the road from each other, and we talk at least every other day, or we're at each other's house every other day. And he got to having some high blood pressure problems, and eventually it showed like stroke-like symptoms. So they ended up taking him to the hospital. They rushed him to Sherwood up in St. Vincent's. Come to find out, it was a rare aneurysm that was causing a brain bleed, and so they ended up having a surgery for him, and lo and behold, by God's grace, he's walking out of the hospital right now as we speak. Right now he is being discharged to go home, and it feels weird not having him here because he's one of the staple items. And what a great guy and a very close friend. But to see him get healthy and get back, and he'll be down here next year. And we even made jokes. He told me he was going to go get a helmet and put it on, and for me to come get him up to the hospital and bring him down here and for him to fish, he just hated to miss it. You know what I mean? But that's how well this trip is. I tell everybody, if you ever come going at one time, you'll always want to go again.
Oh, I want to come back.
Oh, you're right.
Met a couple of your buddies, and I want to come back and get the whole experience.
Oh, it's an experience.
On that real quick, one thing, guys, today I'll say, and I'm going to put more information in the description. So I'm fishing with you today. You get a phone call, and you don't even know the number.
Right.
And we've had spam calls today.
Yes.
But you answered it. And it was someone asking about the donation. Y'all started a fundraiser. I'll let you just talk a little bit about it. I'm going to put some information in the description, guys.
Right.
So,
what it is I back this past Monday, I started. Me and my wife put a bank account in to donate money for Philip because he's self-employed, and his wife is a speech pathologist, but she's not getting to work either because she's been up there by his side.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 kids, a little boy and a little girl, precious kids. He takes his kids to church. He does right by his family. And for him not being able to work, I mean, the bills keep coming.
Yeah.
So what I done was me and my wife made a bank account for him, and people just started pouring in, and it was really heartwarming and a miracle to see how many people was touched. And the phone call that we got today, it was a 318 number from Louisiana.
Yeah, West Monroe, she said.
West Monroe.
She said, well, I'm from West Monroe.
Yes,
and I'm like, okay.
Yes, and one of the cool things about it was somebody that used to work with Marcy while she was in college when she worked at a bank when she was at in Monroe at college. And she was looking to where she could donate money because that's how much she thought of Marcy then in college. But that's how good the Marcy and Philip and Cal and VA are. They're an extraordinary family, and a lot of people think a lot of them. And Philip had a long history with law enforcement background. And but there's been a lot of people reach out and really donate money to really help out somebody that's deserving and in need. But I think that's a great thing. But I also thought it was awesome. I get this phone call, and it's somebody from Monroe, Louisiana that worked with Marcy in college. So that's pretty awesome.
That was the bank. I know it's a family-owned bank down there in Monticello. What's the name, real quick?
It's Union Bank.
Union Bank.
Yes,
okay.
Union Bank, and you can call Google Union Bank in Monticello, Arkansas. Ask for Robin Knowles, which is my wife, and she'll get you to the where you need to be to donate the money to the account that we have set up for them down there to help them out and stuff.
Yeah, but I know they appreciate it. And I just wondered, like I said, I saw that today, and I was like, man, this guy took some time out to do it. It means a lot. It's one of your guys on the trip.
Yes.
And,
well, not only that, me and him's been friends since I think it's 03. Since I moved to Monticello. And, because I'm from Camden.
Yeah.
But another thing is down here we have a best 5, a big bass, and a bago tournament, and all 3 of them have different pots, and all the guys have agreed to put that money in there and maybe just send it back and put it in that account, and that's from the guys at Lake Earling of this clique that's here, Josh Brooks, another guy's here, he feels like even though he only sees us once a year, it's like a band of brothers.
Yeah.
And so he even agreed that's what what we're going to do. But now I do pay for trophies for the big best 5 and trophies for the bago tournament. But Philip went all out and bought. It looks like one of the wrestling belts.
I was about to ask you about the belt. You said trophies, but so is that for the biggest bass?
That's for the biggest bass on Saturday, and I mean it's this big. It looks like something like World Championship Wrestling.
I'm putting a picture up right now for you guys, just so you know. We took a picture earlier of it with some fish that we caught, and I'm going to show that right now for y'all guys to check it out.
Yeah.
But
And that thing was enough money as it was, and so are the trophies. And a lot of it's got to do with bragging rights and a little competition between friends and stuff like that. And so, but it's always fun. It's always a good time.
It always is awesome, man. So you mentioned your dad earlier. It seems like he had a big influence on you in fishing.
He did. Mm-hmm.
And so was he a tournament angler?
Yes. In the 70s, he was one of the original Bass Federation Nation guys.
Uh-huh.
And he's won numerous boat motors and trailers. Matter of fact, he has a trophy case there at his house in Dumas now. They left Camden in '93 and went to Dumas. And there's a whole bunch of first place trophies. But now Daddy, on the other hand, he wanted to fish when he wanted to fish.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go fishing where he wanted to fish at the time. And so he quit tournament fishing kind of early. But then again, he was also a grocery guy. He was Safeway, then Harvest Foods, and then ended his career with Mad Butcher in Dumas. And he was a store manager, and anybody knows them kind of people that they're married to those stores, and you don't get much time off. And Saturdays is your big day, so you don't get to have tournaments, and he don't get to do any. And I was in the grocery business for, I think it's 21 years as a market manager meat cutter, and so I think it was 07 when I left the grocery business, I think it was, and I started doing tournament fishing, and it was a lot of fun, you know, and I got into it. And matter of fact, a cool story in that, I was in Monticello. Daddy was in Monticello in the 70s, and he was a charter member of the Monticello Bass Club. Uh-huh. So the Monticello Bass Club was still in existence when I left the grocery business to join.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was leaving that job, the guy that I was working for didn't like it, and he was telling me, he says, "Man, what are you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna go tournament fish, man. It's something I've always wanted to do because I'm stuck in these grocery stores on Saturdays." And the first year out the box, I won Angler of the Year, and I was really proud of that because it was a club that my dad had started in the '70s, and here I am winning Angler of the Year in I think it was 2009.
Wow, yeah.
2009. So it was pretty cool, kind of full circle, stuff like that. So
awesome. So earlier you're sharing one story about your dad out here when he caught 9-pounder.
Yes.
Was that the biggest bass you can think of that was during, like, you'll have the big bass times? Was that
Yes.
one of the biggest that was caught during this weekend, or?
I think the biggest that ever been caught has been about a 9-something.
Just this weekend, not like those other times, just the weekend.
Just the weekend trips that we do.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, when he passed away, I said every year on his birthday I was going to write a story of something cool that he had did.
Yeah.
And the story I was telling Jimmy is that there was this cabin right here behind me. He was in there the night before, and it was the last day of the trip, and nobody had caught a big fish. I mean, it was like a 2-pounder or 3-pounder that was leading big bass. And this time it was the big bass of the week because we were all over here for a whole week, not just a long weekend. And Dave was in there making sandwiches and packing lunches and icing down drinks. And I'm like, "Man, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm going out there and I'm not coming back till I got him. It's going to happen." And, man, it was a black and blue squirming worm, which is discontinued at Bass Pro Shops, just black with a blue tail on it. And he was in that cove that I showed you, in that exact tree I showed you. He stayed right there on that tree.
Anybody wants to know that tree, it's going to be like $3,000, okay?
Yeah, there you go. Highest bidder, man. We're going on eBay. Yeah. But he caught big fish out of it and won the deal. But that was his determination.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of determination in playing horseshoes or bago or bass fishing. He even always had a basketball goal at his every house. You couldn't beat him playing basketball,
Yeah,
he was very, very athletic,
Competitor.
Very much a competitor. Yes.
So
yes.
Now earlier you mentioned, from Camden, you moved to Monticello, and I know I brought it up, and I never got to experience the Lake Monticello that I hear about.
Yes.
And you got to grow up, see it, live it,
yes,
fish it. Just how it sounds like but it sounds like unicorns and rainbows,
yes,
are like not real. It sounds like it's all like fake stuff that I hear about.
Well, I used to nickname it the Lake Fork of Arkansas.
100%. That's what I heard.
100%. Yeah,
I've had people tell me that.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I even used to pull my boat to work with me. And the minute I got off work, if I could just get that last 2 hours in the afternoon, I'd go out there. And I mean, it was insane, the big fish that you could catch. I mean, I didn't see a numerous of the double digits, 10 and above, but the 7, 8, and 9, and unbelievable.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had no clue of best 5 or a tournament, so I never did catch 5 and weigh them and know what they were, but I'd like to have known.
Yeah,
you know what I
like
mean?
to know.
I've got photo albums up on photo albums because at that time it was disposable cameras, and you had to send them off, and then they would develop the film and then send it to you. So you never knew. What your best 5 were.
Yeah.
But I've seen it on many occasions where it was oh my God, 8-pounder, 9-pounder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of them like that. And then I did have a guy from Forest City that was in the back of my boat. He caught a 13.5.
Yep.
Yes. And he had came there to his wife came there to go to college, and he went to work with me in the meat department. Bill Mathis was his name, and Bill caught one at 13.5, and I believe he's got it mounted on his wall, and he's got it over at Forest City.
Yeah. And I had somebody that doesn't fish much.
Right.
He listens to all the podcasts and he's follows, but he fishes, but he's not like us.
Right.
And he went down there with his father-in-law, and his father-in-law is a fisherman. I mean, he's a hammer, and they're from Hot Springs, but they went down there. And he still remembers that trip to this day, how they cracked like 35 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
For 5. And he was like, "Jimmy, I will never do that again." I'm like, "You won't in Arkansas."
No.
I'm like,
well, but now I will tell you this. On a Lake Earling trip, before some of the guys that are coming now start coming, Philip Roberts and Josh Brooks were over there on the point that I showed you.
Yeah.
And they were throwing swim jigs, and I got a picture of it. It's in my Facebook. I can send it to you, where I'm telling you they had 30 pounds.
Yeah.
5 fish. They had 30 pounds. And so it was done here at Lake Earling, And me and you discussed the craziness that this lake's never been managed.
Yeah, so you shared the whole story. We could talk about that for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You shared the whole story to me on this lake earlier, and it blew my mind. It's never been touched by game and fish anybody.
No. They never fertilized it. They never put a slot limit on it. Matter of fact, Game and Fish was offered this lake, and one of the guys, the biologist, told me they didn't want it. And so a company, Agreed or Allied, I don't know how you say it, they're out of another state, actually owns the lake now. And, there's so many creeks and rivers that come into this thing, it just stays real fertile. I mean, you've seen it today, all the shad, the fish, the crappie is unreal here at Lake Earling. And when you're catching them on spinner baits, and man, they're almost 2 pounds, that's crappie.
Yeah.
And so, but I know a lot of people that come from, all around to fish this lake. And it's so crazy that it produces the fish that it does.
Never been managed.
And it's never been managed. I don't know. I mean, there's hydrilla, there's lily pads, there's cypress
trees.
trees.
There's milfoil today.
Milfoil, yeah.
Coontail. I mean, we saw
Coontail,
different there's lily pads growing up.
Yep.
I mean, it's a pretty unique place.
Yeah.
And no really good contour maps.
No, not really at all.
No contour maps.
No, the avionics, it doesn't show much. So it's hard to look at a topo map and say, well, here's a funnel here, or here's a ditch or whatever. It's hard to see that. So, and this lake really, I mean, it's got some 30-foot holes in it, but it's more over towards the levee. But most of this lake average is 15 foot deep.
Yeah.
So there is a lot and it's tannic color water like Florida.
Yeah.
Is what it's like.
It wasn't so like I fished. I've told you I fished White Oak. I've not been to Columbia, Millwood. This water here, I mean, you see it at Millwood, but like this water here is a little different than even White Oak.
Yes.
White Oak, like now I've been on the water tap.
No, White Oak's a little bit dark.
Yeah,
it's dark.
Yeah. So, but like this water today was that different? Like I've seen more at Millwood at times.
Yes.
And I was kind of intrigued by that just as well. But yeah, man. So pretty cool, just to hear about all of this today. Now, you've been fishing for a long time.
Yes.
I'm turning the sides. There's been so much change in fishing.
Yes.
How have you adapted to the change?
The elephant in the room is live scope, and me and you've had it. We talked about that on and off today.
Yeah.
My thing is, am I the best at it? No. Am I the worst at it? No. But I'm really junk fisherman most of the time, so that live scope will always be on, and so therefore. I use it, but I don't, but I do. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I'm always mixing it up with everything I do. I mean, if you notice today, I don't know if you noticed it, I was constantly picking up a different rod.
Yeah.
And I was throwing something different. It depended on what was in front of me. But now, as for the things of changing, a lot of the kids or the younger group that's coming in are all gamers and computer, hardcore on that and stuff. Which, I mean, all it is, it's just adapting to how things have started. I remember Larry Nixon, a good friend of mine, tells me about the green box, the Lowrance green box that was the paper graft.
Okay, that's new to me. The green box.
They called it the green box. The green box.
Y'all know about the green box?
Yeah.
You
need to Google the green box.
I'm gonna Google the green box.
It was the first ever Lowrance that came out. It was a paper graph, and it was in a box. It was a green metal box.
Yep.
And man, they wanted to ban that thing back then, and they talked about how horrible it was, and it was going to screw up bass fishing. This is in the 70s.
Yeah.
So then, fast forward years later, we're looking at the A-rig comes out.
Yeah.
And boy, when it did, it was going to be the end of fishing because
they ate it that first year.
Oh yeah, that first year, it didn't matter what you had, you just take it, go down the bank.
Yeah, but they still eat it today. But that first year, they ate it.
Oh, they ate it. But then they said it was going to be the end. It was snagging fish on the side, but evidently they never fished jerkbait. Because it's going to hang from the side. Well, eventually BFL, I believe, it let back in, and I think you can have 3 hooks and 2 dummies. And stuff, and they saw that it wasn't going to be the end of the sport. And at this point in time, they're hollering that the live scope will be that. I don't think so. And also bass have been around for millions of years before me and you was ever born, and they'll be around millions of years after me and you are gone. So I don't think live scope is going to deplete that or hurt it. I think it may change how we fish. Remember when the big push of offshore fishing came up? And it stayed that way for many years, and the next thing you know, you've seen guys start going back shallow again.
Yep.
And winning tournaments. So then you got people that are offshore but shallow but then you got some guys that use live scope and some that don't, and that's already starting to happen. I'm thinking, like me and you talked about today, that there's going to be some regulations probably first of next year where it can only be 1 transducer or so many inches of a screen or something like that, which it's a fair deal, to do it that way. But I don't think it's going to ruin the fishing. I mean, I don't like it that it's hurt certain bait sales.
Bait sales, it's real.
It's real. Yes.
You were at the Classic.
Yes.
Dude, I was getting told how it's hurt Strike King.
Yes.
How it's hurt, certain, not just like the crankbait. Guys, if you're still go to Bass Pro, check out that KVD square bill. It was like 60% off at one point this spring.
Yeah,
in
right.
the spring, they couldn't sell them.
They couldn't sell them.
And
right.
I've sold out to the live scope, which is kind of crazy. I know you have one guy here that don't like it, but I've sold out to it because on the water lot I wanted to learn it. I was all about new, and I'll tell you what it's done for me is like, and it's true. I've only bought a lot of jig head minnows and jig heads lately. But I will say this, my wife got mad at me, but it's part of my business and my job, it's a tax write-off. But I bought a bunch of deep diving crankbaits recently. So Strike King went on that sale, and I throw the 6 cents, I throw, what else I throw? There's that one company, Timmy Hill Profound Outdoors.
Yep.
I throw the Strike King one, then there's one more I throw, Spro. But I went crazy on them 6XDs because they were 30% off. And I'm like, hey, cranking season's coming up, so I went and bought them. So that's not the only bait I've bought besides jig heads and jig head minnows lately. And this is crazy, you know.
If
I was fishing Lake Earling every other day, guys, and not Washington and Gray, it would be different.
It would be different. Yes, it would be different.
It would be different.
Well, you know what you just said. One thing it done for me is it made me a lot better offshore fisherman.
Yeah.
It made me a lot better offshore fisherman.
It makes you efficient.
Yeah, it makes you very efficient. Because here I am trying to line up with a tree and line up with another tree, and and I would even use the buoys and making it, where I can line up and hit it and everything. And but then the live scope put me on the money.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's one thing it's done. It's made like if you're average at fishing out there, it's made you better. Because now you see it and you can now throw. I mean, because you throw that jerk bait, twitch. If they come out, they're there.
Yes.
Where before, like you said, you're trying to move.
Yes.
But what it's also done is if you like me, I loved fishing offshore before. And I would battle all those things, but now it makes me a lot more efficient. And it makes others, independent.
Right.
But what I told you earlier, I'm not going to talk on phone. It's opened up eyes of where other fish are.
Yes, it is.
And how to catch other fish.
Right.
I'm not talking about that on here, but it can be used shallow.
Yes, it can be.
That's the other thing is it can be used shallow. We have more guys showing up, guys. It is okay. They're starting to pull up in here. I'd say more of them are coming in here.
Yeah.
But yeah. So right now, I know you're fishing ABA, correct?
Yes.
Is that the only kind of trail, or?
That's really the only trail I'm fishing, and it's due to the heavy workload that I've taken on. And it's always been that way for me, the heavy workload. Even when I was at the original Delta Pass, there was a heavy workload.
Yeah.
And I would have to work, the Friday and Saturday before to even take off for the next Saturday to fish a tournament. And the ABA guys are like a deer camp atmosphere to me.
Yeah.
And they're all good guys. And I'm really afraid to quit it because I don't want to see it go away. And it also goes somewhere, and it goes to a national championship every year. And there's really great guys that fish it. John Simonoff was the tournament director for many years. He moved down to Louisiana around Bossier City.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And when he did,
I don't know John. I just always saw his name in the tournament results.
Yeah.
Okay,
and John's a great guy.
Yeah.
I hated that he left, but I think he went back to work. He kind of retired military, but now Eric Turner, which is another retired military, took it over, and an awesome guy. And we got an awesome group that fishes, and I mean, it may be 10 boats, it may be 20. You know what I mean? But at least it leads somewhere. And they fish through the winter, you know what I'm saying? And like we got a 2-day championship coming up in June on Pine Bluff Harbor, and that'll end the season. And he'll start it back again in September, but that'll be for the 25 season.
Yep.
So it allotted me to go to different places. I went to Lake Nimrod last year for the first time. That's the first time I ever been there. And the only reason why I went is because ABA scheduled it.
Did you say you got second?
Yes, I got second in it. Gabe
Williams.
Beat me. Yes.
Well, Gabe. So what'd you have that day? So like you got second. What'd you have? You remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
We both had sacks. The bad thing is, me and Gabe was in the eyesight of each other at all time. He was seeing me catching them, and I was watching him catch them.
Wow.
And he had never met me before, and he had heard my name, and he was hard at it, man, and everything. And he beat me by ounces, and everything. And he became a good friend and everything. And for some reason he dropped off fishing with us. I don't know why, but I mean, I think he owns a business too, and he stays really busy. And I really like the guy. He was a great guy to fish around too, But that's one thing about ABA. I've never seen controversies. I've never seen trouble. Everybody's just good guys. It's fun to fish, and and you can pay your entry fees all in full for 1 year in the beginning of the year, and I do that on purpose because now I'm invested.
Yeah.
And so therefore, no matter what I'm doing working, I make myself stop to go fish that tournament.
Yeah. Now, one thing about the series, and I know you, so like I said, your South Arkansas, Monticello, you're fishing lakes like this growing up. When and how did you, so you didn't like going to them Washita to graze. Yeah. How did you adapt? Because you've had success on some of them lakes.
Yes, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've had success on Lake Maumelle,
yes,
Washita to Gray. Fishing these lakes and then going to the clear water, or I guess you might be going to the river. But how do you adapt to fishing those lakes?
You know, really, the adapt of it was, muddy water. You're shallow. You know, you're flipping, pitching your trees and stuff like that. And it was also all about accurate casting, too.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, me and you laughed about this out there today.
Yeah.
Because he's been on clear water, he's been on D-grade, he's been on Washita.
Been out there throwing in open water.
And at first, he had to throw up in the trees and go squirrel hunting a few times before he could get a rhythm.
I even told him, I was like, man, this is about to be bad. After my first one, I was like, I've not done this in a while.
Oh, yeah. It takes a little time to get used to it, and it does. But as for, Washita, DeGray, or even Maumelle, that water's gin clear. And I had to learn to go to light line and finesse stuff, shaky heads, different things like that. And I learned to adapt different things. And then, of course, I've got a lot of friends that were in bigger industries that we went fishing and helped me to understand, the offshore or how to fish. And now I've gotten so accustomed to that there. It's hard for me to come back and fish the Arkansas River because I love the Arkansas River. That's one. If I had my favorite fishery, it would be the Arkansas River.
Would it be the Dumas Pool?
Any of them. Any of them. Well, last year was our big championship with ABA in the Maumelle Pool, and I barely won that by a skin of my teeth, but I won the championship in the Maumelle Pool. And anybody that's ever fished that Maumelle Pool knows that it can be feast or famine, and it can be very tough. And I've never had a meltdown losing a fish, but I had a meltdown in that championship in day 2. I lost a fish there, which was the 5th one, and I went hours. Till I kind of caught the 5th one, and that was on me, But I did end up winning the championship, but now when I pull up that river, I'm almost like, honey, I'm home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's in Maumelle. And I love Darnell. I love Darnell. I've won several tournaments there at Darnell, and it's different. From each one of those pools are different. They have different characteristics. It's so funny when I get to talking to those guys in that area. They'll tell me this little 20 foot of water behind the rock dike in Maumelle, that's what we call backwater.
Yeah.
And in Dumas, it's a whole entire lake of Marisac or Post Lake or Copile. To me, that's almost a lake, but that's what we're calling backwater. And it's been cool to meet a lot of different fishermen, a lot of different guys, throughout the state, and became very good friends with a lot of. Matter of fact, some of the guys that are on this trip right now, I met fishing Central Arkansas and above. Some of these guys over here right now are from Sherwood or Little Rock or whatever. And to me, that's the coolest part of it all. Is the friends you make along the way. And one of my biggest sayings is, at the end of your time, when you're in that funeral home up there and it's over, people are going to say, yeah, he won a few tournaments, but they're going to remember how you treated people.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's been my biggest thing, is always treat people good and be friendly, shake their hand, even the winner, shake their hand, because they done something you didn't, and if you hate a fishery, it may be your fault because you don't know how to fish it. So therefore go back and try harder and learn and do, and that's what I've always done, and it's been an incredible ride.
Yeah. So now in the state, you've fished a lot of lakes. Have you been able to fish much out of the state?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's your favorite lake out of the state? At the top of your head.
Out of the tops, I'd have to go with Fork.
I'd
have to go with Fork. I used to fish Lake Fork a lot in the early '90s. I had
you got to see it during the heyday.
One of my best friends from El Dorado, Scotty Fife. He's now a preacher in Longview, Texas. He kind of did a little bit of guiding and fishing there. Yeah. And at the time, I was missing my friend so bad, I'd drive all the way to Texas and stay the weekend with him. We'd fish Fork. And then later on, a good friend of mine, Kevin Smith from Camden, he moved up that way, and he still fishes Fork to this day. He's lived around the Dallas area up there, and me and him did a lot of fishing up there and stuff. But due to time and work and being flooded under, I don't get to go as much as I used to. So I still do go out of state some. I qualify for the national championship every year in ABA. But a lot of times I sit there and look at my work and my work schedule, and you got to leave for a week.
Yep.
And so, I plan on going again.
Yeah.
I'll go. Matter of fact, I think Lake Murray, I think, is this year, third week of October. It's for ABA National Championship, and of course I'm qualified for it right now. We only got 2 tournaments left: Washington in May, and then the championship in Pine Bluff. And so, we talked about going, but I'm sure it'll dry out. And I got the stump grinding business now, and if it's dry, it's time to work. You gotta go do it.
That's what I was about to say. You keep saying work, but I don't know, just depending on the audience, because I know you're about to have some fans follow or fans watch and family and all your buddies. But like for you guys not, so you say work. What is work right now?
It is. I started a small little company called BJ Stump Removal, and I've buddied up with some of the best tree service companies in the South. Some of the best. I mean, and they're all good friends. These tree service companies, they all use me, and I use a lot of social media. I've got a really good Google presence. It's called BJ's Stump Removal. You can Google it. I've got plenty of references and before and after pictures and different things like that. And it's I love seeing a job get started and finished and a job well done.
Yeah.
And I want to make it look like that stump was never there.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to have grass growing over it and stuff. But now there are some people step in and say, hey, I just want you to grind it and walk away, and of course it's cheaper than doing that, and I don't like grinding goes because it makes a mess, and I've got signage on my truck and on the stump grinders and all this kind of stuff. But that's something that I did, to do something different, and it's been successful, and it's kept me busy and stuff, and I've been as far as Hot Springs and Little Rock. I had to go grind some stumps in Greers Ferry. That's
a ride.
That was a ride. Well, actually, I was fishing a tournament. The guy saw the sign on my side of my truck and asked me for these stumps. So I tacked on what the diesel was going to cost. Go back and forth. He said, "Hey, man, come do it. You're a good guy. I trust you." And so I did. But there is some drawback. You got to watch out for underground fiber optics, gas lines, electricity. And the machine itself is very costly. Very costly. I just had to put a gearbox on it 2 weeks ago at $5,000. So sometimes when I've only had 1 or 2 people do this, and they'll freak out on how much it costs to do just one stump, and I'm like, but you don't know what it costs to operate this thing. It runs off diesel, bearings, even the teeth on it, like at this point in time, are I think $12.45 per tooth. And there's I think $236 worth on the wheel, and one rock and one piece of metal, they're done. And you got to go right back over, and you can't sharpen a carbide. So and there's a lot of odds and ends that goes into all that. But I've enjoyed still going and meeting people, and getting to see people. One of my biggest pet things that I do is I love individual people's history. And I always say, like, everybody knows Washington crossed the Delaware. But who is Jimmy? Where is he from? You talk like you about that. Your college and how you was a coach and here and stuff. And I enjoy getting to know people like that.
Which I have that personality. When you so. And I'm going to say this real quick because you said it when you reached out to me, gave me your number, I called you. You were like, hey, dude, me and you are alike in a lot of ways. And I can tell right away. Not just from your personality, like everything you said there, but just like you have that high energy, talk fast. You don't try to find anything bad in people. And even if there is something bad, you try to put it to the side. But that was kind of what I thought was cool, and like you're saying, you get to know me, but you're like, hey, we're a lot. He's like, I've watched a lot of you on YouTube. We're similar in a lot of ways.
A lot of ways.
And us two in the boat. You don't drink much caffeine, as I guess I found out.
I stay away from it. You don't put gas on a brush fire.
Because I'm the guy that still. I even told you earlier. I didn't get a Red Bull this morning. I didn't drink any. I drank 1 cup of coffee, and then at home, and I cut back on coffee. My father-in-law, if you listen, my father-in-law finally talked me out of it. I used to drink a pot or more for probably 10 years. And then I finally, this year, that was my resolution. Get to 2 cups of coffee, maybe 3 a day. And so I had one, and I was like, I'm gonna have a Red Bull today. I'm going to Lake Earling. I need it. And then I had a problem, didn't get it. And but yeah, man. So a whole nother deal. One thing I want to talk about. I had this on my thought real quick. Larry Nixon. You and Larry have a good relationship. Hope I get Larry on here one day. Probably can. But Larry, so y'all's relationship, fishing, how did that come about?
We met as I was a kid at one of the tournaments,
Yeah.
and the classic and stuff, and then and several times over classics there, and then later on, me and George Cochran became very good friends.
Yep.
And he's one of my proudest friendships I've made in the bass fishing industry. And buddy, he is just like fishing with one of my South Arkansas buddies. We laugh, we have a good time, and we end up, I started going to the deer camp with him. And of course, his son David, is the striper fisherman on, the striper guide fisherman on Washita, and he runs a very successful guide service there. So, and of course, Larry and George are best friends, and we were always at the camp together and stuff. And Larry is a really real person.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people look at him as this legend and this big champion and the all-time money winner and all this stuff like that. But he is a guy just like me and you, and he's a good guy, and he's got a heart of gold. A matter of fact, he even reached out to me on the BJ stump removal, and shared it for me, and helped me out and everything and stuff. And George has got a birthday coming up, May the 3rd, and we do the big deer camp cleanup down at it's down at Balameda.
Yep.
And we do that the last weekend in September, I believe. Yep. I think it's the last weekend in September. And man, we have a blast. And I mean, we do a big fish fry and all this kind of stuff, and it's just some good camaraderie. And Larry's just a great guy, and I cherish their friendships.
Yeah.
Because they're good guys,
Awesome.
and they're fun to be around.
Awesome. Well, man, BJ, I appreciate it. We can keep talking, going on and on. We're trying to get a little video made for the YouTube channel.
Sure.
About the day, but man, I appreciate it. And I know you hadn't had a chance to say, and it's at the end. I'm sorry, but any sponsor or any thanks you want to say, Robin, or anybody you want to say thanks, sponsors, man. We can say a lot.
I can say a lot about sponsors, but if I had to say one that would stand out, would be Robin.
Hey, Robin, I know you listen. He talked about you a lot today.
Yes.
Yes, I'm about to say.
Man, when me and her met and we got married, it was like the Diamond Duo. She is at every tournament.
She supports you.
She is very supportive.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if I say, I don't think I'm going to go do that tournament, she's, what's wrong with you? You get out there and you go. Go fishing, and everything like that.
How many wives are like that?
No, a lot of people compare me and her to Leanne and Gerald Swindle.
Yeah.
A lot of people can compare us to that
Fair
because
enough.
Leanne and Robin are a lot alike. And Robin has a really stressful job of running a bank, and but buddy, she's still she's there at every tournament. She backs the boat in every morning. All the other guys are just shocked at it because their wives are not out there or whatever. And of course, I've had some back issues and different things, and she's helping out with that and all that kind of stuff. But man, anytime I say something about fishing, she is not going to gripe at me for buying a rod or a reel or anything. So if that's what you need, let's get it, and let's jump in there. So yeah, she's a huge part of this. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and go on record and say this. If me and her were not together, I'd probably sell the boat and probably just buy me a good old aluminum boat and just play fish when I could. I probably wouldn't do the tournaments anymore and stuff because she is definitely the backbone behind it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome, man.
Yes.
That's great. I appreciate it. Guys, appreciate y'all watching today. Like I said, I always say this at the end. If you have any questions for BJ, leave it down in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, I always forget to say that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I need to, but appreciate it, BJ. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Guys, we'll see you on the next episode.